Yes, g'day, the FootyCast live from Melbourne, not from the BackChat Studios. No Mark Reddings. Don't turn off straight away. I know you're all very big fans of Skeeter. We're over here in Melbourne doing interviews for our other podcast, BackChat, and Skeeter didn't make the journey. I don't know if there was not enough beers over here. He's always looking for free trips and accommodation. So we've left Skeeter at home. I'm sure he'll be looking at the investments for the weekend coming up. So it's just me solo going through the week of footy. You know what to do here at the Shelter FootyCast. You can find everything we do at shelterfootycast.com.au. It'll be a shortened episode today, but that's fine. I'm sure none of you want to hear me babble on for too long anyway. Make sure you get in touch with us at the FootyCast. FootyCast at backchatstudios.com.au. You can send an email and get involved there. And probably after this, I'm going to go and have a couple of shelters down the pub as well, which will be bloody brilliant. So make sure you get yourself some beers at shelterbrewing.com.au. 10% off. We've got that big deal happening right now. FootyCast at checkout for 10% off hazies right up until the end of this round. So make sure you get over there and fill your boots at Shelter. Let's get into some of the big moments of the week that's happened. And you'd think being in Melbourne, we'd be covering a little bit more. You may hear Dan from time to time, by the way. He doesn't have a microphone in front of him. But if I miss anything, Dan, you can get into me. Christian Petracca news feels like something that probably we should speak about off the top. Really interesting stuff coming out of Melbourne with Tom Morris reporting Christian Petracca is disgruntled with the Melbourne Footy Club, culture issues. To me, it didn't sound like it was win and loss like the CEO and the coach have come and spoken about in a few press conferences and media releases I've seen over the past 24 hours. And, you know, that's Melbourne trying to paint this in a positive light. Two things I'll say is we haven't heard Christian Petracca come out and say anything about this issue. This is just a media report. So been asked a few questions over the last little bit whether or not this is a serious issue for Melbourne or not. I think it would be very serious if Christian Petracca was out in a podcast somewhere telling everybody how shit Melbourne was. But matter of fact is we're not really hearing that. So, yeah, an issue, yes. A big issue, maybe not. Although you don't want Christian Petracca, and I quote Tom Morris here, you know, probably not verbatim, but saying if he was available tomorrow, he'd ask for a trade. So, I mean, that was the big news that was spoken about. You know, would that happen? He's got 5 years remaining on a deal or something like that. I don't know if that's true or not, I suppose, is what I'm getting to. So,
would you like me to read you a letter, part of a letter from the CEO? Because the CEO penned a letter.
Does Gary Pert?
Yeah, an open letter yesterday.
Please.
Saying a few things, but he said, these conversations, talking with Christian Petracca, have been open and constructive with the purpose of ensuring that together we achieve the success we know our AFL program is capable of. So he did come out and say that Petracca is in contract and working together for the next 5 years. But
yeah, it's a very positive light they're trying to spin on it. But, you know, I think probably the bigger issue is if they are having these sorts of conversations and they do know they're true and happening and Chris Petracca's flagging the fact he's not happy at the football club. I heard some Jack Viney news.
Yep.
North Melbourne, perhaps we're interested there. Pretty sure his old man works at North Melbourne, so maybe that's the link. I don't know. Yeah, Jack Viney seemed speaking with North Melbourne staff, i.e. his dad. But yeah, I'm probably not overly concerned hearing the Christian Petracca stuff, to be honest. Like, it's something that I'm not really surprised with. Like, they had all the issues in the off-season. Clayton Oliver went through whatever he was going through. I mean, they've wrapped him up for the year. He's getting surgery. So, yeah, Christian Petracca, their best player, wants out. If that's the news, I'd be more concerned if I was Melbourne at the actual news getting out, because Tom Morris has reported it. We know him to be a good newsbreaker. He's someone that usually gets it right. So that tells me that this is happening and that it's true. So that's probably what they'd be most disappointed with. I think you'd have players across the competition that'd be disgruntled, annoyed and pissed off with what's happening at their football club, especially ones that aren't playing finals. Like, I think that's a pretty common thing in the AFL. What's not common is like your best player contracted to a large length contract getting leaked into the media. So that's been really interesting. At the West Coast Eagles, look, this has been hilarious to watch, I think. Listeners of the Shelter FootyCast, if you've been listening and watching, which I know you have, I told you Tom Barrass isn't going to be at West Coast about 4 weeks ago, I think. 4 to 3 weeks ago. We aren't a breaking news podcast here at BackChat or at Shelter FootyCast. We don't really do that. But I feel like that's what we did. All I could see across my social media feed yesterday and the day before, breaking, exclusive, first year, heard it here first. Tom Barrass being offered a contract by Hawthorn. What are we talking about here? Dan, did you see any of this?
Yeah, it looked like it was for the first time all of a sudden Barrass's name had been thrown around as if it was brand new.
Funnily enough, I saw Ryan Daniels, who wasn't involved in the breaking of it, but he's come out correcting people saying it's a 4-year deal at Hawthorn.
Not a 5.
Look, 4 years, 5 years, I don't know what it is, but you heard it here first, just so you know. I don't know if that is breaking. I think that's pretty clear that's going on. What I do find interesting is, you know, Tom Barrass is contracted by West Coast, which we all understand. You know, the way this works out is the interesting thing. Like, do West Coast have the leverage that is being spoken about? There's people in the media, especially in the West here, not here in Melbourne, but obviously over in the West, saying that West Coast are in the powerful position. I don't know if they are, to be honest. I think they haven't, addressed the contract situation that's clearly like relevant to them. Sydney have been knocking for 2 years now. Then they've got another 2 clubs coming at him. If West Coast felt like it was something they were going to do, which was, redo the contract to better reflect market value, they would have already done it. So they've lost their ability to do that. So that tells me they've made the decision that they're going to trade him. Hawthorn know that. Western Bulldogs know that. Sydney probably still know that. So that's the decision they've made, West Coast. You might be thinking, well, bad luck, he's already signed a contract, so maybe they don't have to do anything. But I think in this circumstance, you either got to redo it and you keep him, you keep your vice captain, or where it's got to now, I think as every day slips past and West Coast don't address this, which I've heard some club comments across media that, feels like they're either trying to posture or they're ignoring the fact that this is happening. But I think every day that goes past, they lose power and they lose leverage. So whether Hawthorn want 4 years, 5 years, the deal that gets done, and I don't think there's much doubt anymore whether one's going to get done, is the interesting one. First round draft pick, 2 first round draft picks. I don't know if you'll get any West Coast fans. I don't know if you'll get any first rounders, Dan.
You gotta. You can't. What, they give him for nothing?
Oh,
like
no,
I think 2 second rounders or something.
No, I think you'll find that it'll be a three-way deal where they bring in a Richmond and you get a player. You may just get a player. I don't know if you get a first rounder.
We'll take Bolton then.
Yeah, I think you might get a Shea Bolton or a Lam Baker. So I don't know if that's a straight swap. If you think that's fair, West Coast fans might not think it's a fair trade. But every day, every year especially, so if they don't do this deal and they do keep him contract and they say, we're not trading you, even if you want to, we're not trading you. Tassie's another year closer. Tom's another year older. He won't be as valuable as he is right now next year or the year after that. So it'll be really interesting to watch this one play out. But as I started, it was spoken broken here. So don't read anything you read on social media. And the West Coast the Fremantle Dockers, probably the stuff that's most relevant to them at the moment is their ruck and forward situation. Sean Darcy still looks really proppy, 60, 70% at training. Our man, Josh Tracy, the big kahuna, he looks like he's not going to get up either. So they've got their own issues. They've got to win both of these games to play finals. I don't see them winning one of these, losing one and being able to play. I think the teams around them all win. And so they've got to go out to win this game of footy, because I think next week against Port Adelaide in the final game of the year, that's a pressurised situation. You don't want to go into, 1, having lost this week, or 2, without your ruckman. So I think they'll end up playing Sean Darcy. I know that they're looking at Reedy pretty carefully at training this week. But if Sean Darcy was 10 minutes away from playing last week, I reckon he plays this week. And he'll make a big difference to the way they line up in front of the footy, with some big games of footy to come. I think that's all the big issues, unless you've got something to throw at me, Daniel.
No, that's it.
So that's all the big issues we've got around. I'm not going to throw to a sting. I'm just going to keep rolling.
Keep rolling.
Usually I'd go Will Schofield, Mark Redding,
I'll do
Show
it for you.
FootyCast.
Dwing, 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 dwing.
Thank you very much, Dan. We're going to go through our tips. I will get some from Skeeter, and you can get them over at Patreon if you want. I'm going to try and get Skeeter's tips because, as he said on Monday, I think breaking news here on the Show FootyCast, Skeeter was leading the West footy tipping. He hadn't mentioned all year, and then suddenly he's leading.
Yep.
I mean, Jesus, Skeeter, I tell you what. Be nice if you just share some of your tips here with us here at the Shelter FootyCast. So, Dan, I want you to throw some of these games at me. Let's go through the West Coast and Freo games like we usually do, and I'll do my very best to break these down, although I don't have the same amount of preparation that I've always had.
So, Sunday, West Coast Eagles take on, last home game for them, take on Carlton 4:40 on a Sunday. Honestly, rough game. As a guy, like going the footy, Sunday afternoon, that's late.
Sunday 2:40. It's 4:40 because we're in Melbourne, Daniel.
My app is updated to Melbourne time.
Yeah, I realise that, but lucky I'm here to catch you.
Wow.
So it'll be 2:40 Sunday. West Coast Carlton. West Coast Eagles, as we sit, live and breathe right here. This is a Wednesday night recording. They are favourites for this game of football. Can you believe it? After 22 rounds of AFL plus opening round, right, which makes no sense. The West Coast Eagles, Carlton haven't been there, second and third on the ladder, will come to Perth as underdogs against a West Coast Eagles side that have won 2 in a row and go to look to three-peat it for the first time in a fair few years. It's going to be a really interesting matchup, this one. I think clearly, as all games are decided in the midfield, so you've got big battle in there with Tim Kelly, Elliot Yeo, Harley Reid v Cripps. Chera's not playing. He hurt his hammy and etc. But, I mean, you've got a midfield at Carlton that's been able to set an agenda with Sam Walsh head-to-head. So that's what you get in the middle. And usually you'd be saying, geez, I can't wait to watch McGovern and Barrass go head-to-head with Mackay and Curnow. Barrass is no certain to be playing. Don't know if he will. I think he'd want to, but not sure if he will. And if he doesn't, West Coast fans, you won't see him at home ever again, unless he's playing for another side. Just my opinion. And Carlton doesn't have Mackay or Curnow. Harry Mackay's done a quaddie. Charlie Curnow's done his ankle. Neither of those will play. And they've got 4 other injuries from the weekend. So they'll have 6 changes coming into this one. Saad won't be playing. Lads through the middle won't be going again. They've had soft tissue injuries. It's an absolute crisis at Carlton. I don't know if they win this game, which is just absolutely ludicrous behaviour. And they sit outside the 8 right now. West Coast and Sydney to finish. They don't win and they don't play finals. Am I going to play? Am I going to pick the West Coast Eagles? Yes, I bloody am.
Wow.
Picking West Coast.
Setting them up for failure.
I think we could see Gov v Gov. I reckon we... Look, I don't know. Of
Who's
course
playing
we can break
forward
it.
for Carlton?
Jeremy McGovern, mate. I'm sorry, Mitch McGovern.
Yeah.
So we did chat to Mitch. He wasn't sure if he was going forward or back.
Probably wouldn't tell us.
Definitely wouldn't tell us. But I think it'd be cool to see the McGoverns play on each other. I don't know if they get to do that too often.
No.
And never have certainly played together. So, yeah, McGovern will be a good one to watch in this one. And, Waterman, Allen and Darling, suddenly looks pretty good against a McGovernless backline for Carlton with only Jacob Wiedering with his bank accounts to hold up the fort down the Carlton backline. So I think West Coast wins. I can't fucking believe I'm picking West Coast. I don't think I've picked them all year. But West Coast win against Carlton.
Wow, there you go. Should we go to Fremantle?
Yeah, let's do it.
Fremantle play against GWS at ENGIE Stadium, NG Stadium at 11:45 Saturday morning.
Wowie.
Get your coffee out.
Yeah, correct. Or if you're in Melbourne, because we get a lot of Melbourne listeners, it is 1:45. So
lunchtime, yeah.
Now that I'm in Melbourne, I'm thinking maybe we should just say the time and you can watch that 11:45 in Perth if you like.
Perfect. All right.
So 1:45, 11:45 for our Western Australian listeners and viewers. Huge game of footy at NG Stadium. That's GWS's home ground, right?
Yeah.
I know it's a home game, but it's not in fucking Canberra or something,
No,
is it?
it's in Sydney.
Okay. This is a big game of football. for Freo mainly because GWS were able to beat Brisbane last week. Mainly, this is a Freo big game because if Freo lose this, like I said, suddenly Western Bulldogs, Hawthorn, Carlton may win, even though I've picked West Coast. They all jump Fremantle. And so if Fremantle lose this, Carlton, Hawthorn and Western Bulldogs win, Freo will be outside of the 8 coming into the last round of footy. So it's just such a massive game of footy, whereas GWS sit top 4 on the ladder, 3rd on percentage, behind Port Adelaide, so same amount of points as second place. Sydney's no lay-down misère to win their games, although they do have Essendon this week, which I just thought was so disappointing after being Fremantle 2 weeks ago. GWS have got plenty on the line as well. So, big matchups to watch in this one. Does Darcy get up, as we spoke about, and do Fremantle reboot their forward line? I think they're going to play quicker, Freo. Like what I saw last week against Geelong, they played too slow. And I know they wanted to keep the ball out of the hands of a Blitzarves and a Tom Stewart, but I think to beat GWS, they're going to have to play quick. I don't think playing a slow brand of footy is going to get it done against GWS at home. But for Freo to travel to GWS, second or third best side in the competition at the moment, and win, it'd be a big upset. Big upset. And they're going to have a lot on the line. So, yeah, this is why I'm not loving Freo's chance to play finals. I can't believe it's not Wolfie time. It's bloody doing my head in. Yeah, I don't think you get Josh Tracy back. I think your midfield needs a lift, Fremantle. I think you need a lift from Brayshaw. You need a lift from Sarong. You need a lift from Young. They need to play better than they have, especially in the big moments. And I think GWS are looking like they're doing that. Like they stood up in the last quarter against Brisbane at the Gabba. So for Freo to play finals, they have to stand up in the big moments, and they're going to have to do it against good sides in GWS and Port Adelaide. So if they make finals, Freo, you bloody deserve it. If you don't, well, you get what you get. 5 games they've lost after leading at 3/4 time this year. They lost a couple of close games where they weren't leading. They've only really got it done against Collingwood, which they probably scraped through with a win there, and then Sydney, maybe could have said that they should have lost that one. So, got to be said, it's a really young side for Fremantle getting rolled out at the moment. I think they're in the top 5 youngest sides in the competition. But at GWS, with them playing the way they're playing, can't go against them. And I'm a GWS man, so I pick the Giants to knock off the Dockers. And the Dockers are going to have to win, and probably win big, against Port Adelaide in the last game of the year to even sniff the final 8.
All right, should we go Friday night game? Essendon v Sydney, Marvel Stadium.
Sydney aren't in the form that we thought that they were 6 weeks ago. Well, probably 8-10 weeks ago. But a win last week against Collingwood gets the confidence up and about. I'm sure a couple of beers, a couple of shelters at the start of last week gave them a refresh, a reset, get a win. That gives you a refresh and a reset mentally. And to be quite frank, even Essendon's win against Freo, I thought they had a 10-minute patch. They kicked 5 goals against Freo. Outside of that, they were shit house. And they were shit house last week. They lost, right? They lost against the Gold Coast Suns.
Right? First time away for the
At
Gold Coast Suns.
Gold Coast haven't won away from home. Like Andrew sunk your season, Essendon. The season's done for Essendon. I don't think they can play finals, even though they're 2 points back. I just think there's too many good sides in front of them. They needed to beat Gold Coast to have a real opportunity. Of course, percentage, there is a chance that Essendon play finals, but not after they lose this one. The Sydney Swans get this one done in a bit of a walkover, I think, which is bloody sad for Essendon fans. We had a good chat to Mason Redman over here in one of our interviews, and I think he said it pretty well that their fans deserve more. And I think Essendon fans do deserve more than their cop this year and for years prior, but they ain't playing finals this year. Sydney win.
Gold Coast take on Melbourne in Gold Coast, so they're at home. That's at 11:45 Saturday morning.
Gold Coast win. 145 game for them. Gold Coast win. Melbourne are shit. Their best player wants out. Clayton Oliver's been wrapped up. He's getting surgery. I won't say who, but we did try to organise a Backman interview. This is probably giving a little bit too much away, but there is I don't know if everyone's healthy at Melbourne. I'm just going to keep it very broad. Not sure if everyone's healthy at Melbourne, so they don't get this done. Like Gold Coast are going to go in strong favourites here. I was on the debrief must have been 6 weeks ago, and Adrian Sorry, can you pass me a little water, please, Daniel? Adrian, the host over there at the debrief, gave me the last 8 rounds for Melbourne, and he got me to win-loss them. And I gave them 2 and 6 to finish the season.
What have they done?
They went 2 and 0 for the first 2 episodes, two games after that episode. Melbourne fans who hate me anyway.
Yep.
1, because of the Clayton Oliver stuff. 2,
2018.
when they won, 2 2018, 3 2021. I said I'm not sure if they could win the prelim after their prelim effort last time at Optus Stadium. Hey, did I look stupid there? Yeah, I did. I understand that, Melbourne fans. But then 4, they hated me the most for the 2 and 6 call. Didn't really rate them to finish this year. Then they went 2 and 0. A lot of feedback on social media.
Good, yeah.
I had good time on the flight on the way over. We had Wi-Fi. And for some reason, I was thinking about the Sash. Sorry, not Sash, the D-Beef podcast. And I went back to that post, had a bit of a read just to get my spirits up and about. Because since that 2 and 0, they've gone 4 losses in a row. And they're going to finish the year 2 and 6.
Wow.
As advertised. Gold Coast win this. Not sucked in Melbourne fans, but sucked in Melbourne fans who gave me shit. Right? I was right, you were wrong. Suck a big one.
4:35 Saturday afternoon. Collingwood at home take on Brisbane. Big game.
I mean, yeah, it is a big game, isn't it? Collingwood, you showed me it was like a...
the simulation thing.
Yeah, simulation
A million
of every...
simulations of the last 2 games of the
It
round.
was a million?
Oh, sorry, last 2 rounds. Yeah, a million simulations, yeah.
Does that mean in one simulation, like Collingwood wins by 1 point, in another one, Collingwood wins by 2, in another one, Collingwood wins by 3?
I think based on the stats and stuff, the computer...
But if there was a million, there would have been a lot of results.
Exactly.
So from a million goes at it, I think Collingwood had a 2% chance of making finals. So they're going to need everything going right for them. 1, their percentage is shite. So to make finals, they're going to have to dominate teams. And 2, they're playing Brisbane at the Gabba. Is that the Gabba?
Yeah, sorry, no, it's at the G.
Right, okay. That just gives me a little bit of a flick back the other way. But, yeah, okay. Collingwood, they had their season on the line last week against Sydney. They couldn't get it done in a close one.
They would need the Bulldogs not to win another game, Hawthorn not to win another game,
Yes, okay.
Carlton not to win another game, and win by a lot their last 2.
Yeah, I think it's unlikely they make finals. Very unlikely, but I think it's unlikely they can beat Brisbane. But that's saying something to the MCG. So maybe they do win this week. Maybe they can win their last 2 games. Collingwood have got Melbourne at the MCG, so they probably win that. So maybe Collingwood finish 9th. Maybe they finish 9th with a couple of wins to finish off. Brisbane at the MCG.
$2.35 favourites at the moment compared to $1.60.
How can you be a $2.35 favourite?
Sorry, $2.35 against $1.60 favourites Brisbane.
Brisbane are favourites. Mm-hmm. I'm going to pick Collingwood as my roughie of the week. Oof. Brisbane bouncing back off a loss. Disappointing one. You know what? Reverse that. Brisbane are winning that. Collingwood season's done, and so are their players. Most disappointing side this year, Collingwood.
Wow.
Yep.
Next up, we've got the Showdown Saturday night. That should be a good one after Adelaide's performance last week.
Right. So Adelaide Oval. Adelaide knock off the Bulldogs last week. As predicted here on the show, the FootyCast on Monday. One of the only good things I've said all year, probably, but I was bloody right, so I'm going to let you know about it 100 times. They play Port Adelaide, who we know they've been on the move. They sit second on the ladder, and they have Adelaide and Freo to finish off the year. So they need to keep winning to keep their top 4 spot alive. They need to keep winning so they finish top 2 and have home qualifying finals with a chance to play a home prelim as well. So, yeah, in terms of how this game's looking, it's good that Adelaide are in good form. You don't want the Showdowns to be a walkover. I heard Darcy Fogarty interviewed after the game last week. They played against the Dogs, and they'd gone to the Showdown already. Asked him how he was feeling about it, and he said there'll be no greater feeling than stuffing up Port Adelaide's season.
Love that.
Will Schofield, roughie of the week. He's picking on the Adelaide Crows to beat Port Adelaide. A lot of pressure on Port Adelaide, which is going to make it an even better game against Fremantle the following week. Adelaide get it done in the Showdown. Darcy Fogarty kicks 5 goals.
Okay. Same time, great scheduling. Same time at Marvel Stadium. St Kilda take on Geelong Cats.
Right. The Saints against Geelong. Riley's not with us anymore. He's gone back and I'm not following his run sheet, so I don't have all the pooporama around why Geelong is so good. But I can tell you one thing, St Kilda are no good. They've been no good for a while. They're coming off a win against Richmond. St Kilda are no good. Richmond are even worse. Geelong, on the other hand, have got role players everywhere. They must have incredible culture. We love the word culture and getting that bandied around, but they must have proper development at their football club. They continue to have players that stand up in big moments, that play their role, don't let the team down. They have a game style that's adaptable. They play like slingshot footy. They get numbers behind and then they go hard the other way. Saw them live last week against Freo and I really respected how they played. So I haven't been a Geelong backer this year. Been continuing to say they're not going to play finals. Well, I can confirm they will be playing finals this year. Can't miss, in fact.
Well,
However,
a big win could put them in second spot.
Yeah, they sit equal second spot. On 56 points, 14 wins. They're 109% v 111 to GWS to 113 Port Adelaide. So that's gettable. Absolutely it is, Dan. And they get this one in a big win. Well, maybe a big win. I don't know. Ross is always, the ultimate negator. So maybe St Kilda can hold up, the fort a little bit, but Geelong get that one done at Marvel Stadium under the lid.
On to Sunday, the Western Bulldogs play at home at Marvel against the Kangaroos.
We're just in the Western Bulldogs facility.
Very nice.
Great operation they're running in there. I like the sauna. I've got a 20-person sauna in there.
Cold pool, hot pool, sauna. Pool.
Yes.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So they've got the big, they've got the kennel out the back. They call it the igloo. So that's where they do all their match play. We saw some of the boys going about their work. Chatted to
Good
Aaron.
vibes there.
Well, chatted to Aaron Norton. He's a impressive human being.
Yes.
Looking forward to seeing him go about his business and the lobster. Although North Melbourne haven't been going poorly, they lose to West Coast in a bit of a boil over in that last quarter. I don't think they challenged the Western Bulldogs after a really disappointing game against Adelaide. So pretty short and sharp this one. The Bont, who we got down to chat to, the Bont?
Haven't seen him in real life in the flesh before.
How'd you feel about seeing him?
He is a specimen.
Big man.
He's way bigger than I thought he'd be.
I felt like I hadn't seen him in the flesh.
He was bigger than you.
Yeah, which is scary.
He is, but he's fit at incredible specimen.
Settle.
Marcus Bontempelli, he's just a big
man
big
too.
unit. Yeah, very
I
nice.
know him. First time I ever met him. So
Put his hand out and said, "Hello, my name's Marcus." Like, yeah, I know your name's Marcus.
he doesn't
You're
seem
the
like a
Bont.
Marcus, does he?
No, he's a
No
Bont.
one calls him Marcus.
Hello, Marcus.
Some people would say like Josh Kennedy, and they'd call him Josh.
Yeah.
No one says Marcus. What did I just say? Barcus?
You just saw that.
Barcus Montepelli. Very good. The
All right, Western
Yeah,
Bulldogs.
it's a rollover because they need to win too. They need to win to play finals. So that's a win. Easy one, in fact.
On
Under the
to probably another lopsided one. Hawthorn at the G taking on Richmond.
I mean, the real question here is how much Hawthorn's going to win by because they're going to smack Richmond. From what I saw, they were just dreadful on the weekend. Worst game of footy I've seen all year from a team. So you'd have to be surprised if Richmond don't respond from that disgraceful effort that I had to watch and bloody call. Should have charged overtime for the effort that took. But yeah, Hawthorn get this done in a big win, and they've got North Melbourne to finish off the year as well. So Hawthorn will be their percentage is a real issue with Carlton, so they're on the same amount of points and just 1% above them. So they need to win and win big because you'd think Carlton will be trying to do the same. But yeah, Hawthorn wins this in an absolute bloodbath. Looking forward to seeing Big Choley kicked a big bag, I reckon. Big bag to Choley.
A loss to Richmond pretty much locks in wooden spoon for them.
I hope the Choley bag isn't on Ben Miller, though. He's a
No,
good man.
definitely
He's a good
not.
man.
No.
What did you just say?
If Richmond lose this, it pretty much locks in the wooden spoon for them for this year.
I mean, right.
Because they've,
Right, North Melbourne, okay. So West Coast can't win it. You must be happy about that.
Yeah, I'm stoked.
I mean,
to be honest, at this point in the time, whether you're 16th or 18th, wouldn't you rather just be get the higher pick?
You're almost guaranteed to get third pick in the draft.
We might have 2 top 10 picks this next draft. If a Hawthorn deal gets done, I'm happy about that.
Okay. Well, Always very positive about the West Coast Eagles on this podcast, so it'll be good to see them go well. That's my final pick of the week, Daniel, I think, because
that's all the games.
West Coast and Carlton to finish off. Apologies for the shorter podcast this time around, but definitely wanted to get something out to you. Mark Reddings will be fit and firing and recovered and ready to bring you some of the great takes of modern football journalism coming up on Monday. We're giving him a rest. Hopefully we don't lose him to the paddock. Well, like you put a horse back to paddock and then they say they get a bit of grass into them and they get a bit fat, a bit worried. So I'm hoping, given Skeeter the weekend off, I hope he comes back fit and firing.
Good. We need him.
Yeah, we do. Have a great weekend. Hopefully enjoy your footy. Big games coming up here in the West. Fremantle, I hope you get it done, but I think unlikely. And the West Coast Eagles to play Carlton in a big clash here at Optus Stadium. That is the show, the FootyCast, done and dusted. Give me some feedback. I'm sure it'll be bring back Skeeter. You can do that on the show, the FootyCast on socials. Make sure you're following us there. FootyCast at backchatstudios.com.au. Send us an email. And that phone tells me that we are done. Great job.